Hello Raptors fans and welcome to Raptors Report. Today we're going to be talking about the Raptors record, their chances to make the play-in tournament, some late season surprises in Gary Trent Jr. and Malachi Flynn, and the draft lottery. There's a ton to unpack, so let's dive right in. The Raptors are currently 20-32, 11th in the East, and have been missing multiple players over the past month due to injuries and precautionary measures. At the trade deadline, the team opted to not trade Kyle Lowry, yet did not address the team's gaping hole at the center position. Since then, the Toronto Raptors have managed to add Khem Birch, who was bought out by the Orlando Magic, but as I mentioned on Twitter, I don't know if he moves the needle that much. The Raptors won only a single game during the month of March, going a miserable 1-13 over that stretch. Wow. That's a lot of bad news. Hopefully I didn't lose too many viewers going over it, but that's what Raptors fans have had to endure if they've been paying attention. Strangely, in the month of April, the Raptors had two very cool games. One where they outscored the Steph Curry-less Golden State Warriors by a franchise 53 points, and another where they won a close game at the buzzer versus the Wizards on an electric three-point shot by Gary Trent Jr. The Raptors followed up those two games with a stinker versus the Lakers, who were without LeBron and Anthony Davis. The Raptors themselves were also extremely depleted, especially after OG got ejected for effortlessly picking up and dropping Dennis Schroeder. The Raptors also limped into an important seeding game versus the Chicago Bulls, who are 2 games ahead of them in the standings for 10th, and lost, mostly due to being incredibly injured. Siakam and Boucher both had heroic efforts in the loss, however. When taken as a whole, the Raptors are a bad team. They have talent, but due to players missing games and roster construction, they are 11 games under 500. There are 2 ways to look at the Raptors' current situation. One of them is the conventional way. The Raptors are currently 3 games out of the play-in tournament. The play-in tournament takes the 7th, 8th, 9th, and 10th ranked teams in each conference and pits them against one another in a single elimination bracket that awards the winners the final 2 playoff spots. I think that if the Raptors were to make the play-in, they'd have a good shot to secure a playoff berth. They have veteran players who have been deep in the playoffs and know how to win tight games. However, once they make the actual playoffs and face either the Brooklyn Nets or Philadelphia 76ers in a 7-game series, they would probably get their butts kicked. They would be heavy underdogs. The other way of looking at the Raptors season is through the lens of the draft lottery. The last time the Raptors cared about what happened in the draft lottery is when they managed to pick up Jakob Poeltl with New York's first-round pick secured via the Bargnani trade. Thanks, Masai. This time, Raptors fans don't have the luxury of cheering for another team to lose. If they want more ping-pong balls in June, they're going to have to put up with the Raptors losing games. The Raptors are currently tied for 7th in the lottery and have a 29% chance of moving into the top 4, and a 6.7% chance of picking first overall. The top 3 of this draft is extremely promising. Cade Cunningham has off-the-charts potential as a 7'6" point guard with a fantastic three-point shot. Jalen Suggs just had a special college basketball season, coming just a single game short of leading Gonzaga to a perfect season, and looks like a player with a very high floor. Evan Mobley is one of those unicorn-type prospects that comes around very rarely, standing 7 feet tall with very advanced ball handling skills and great fluidity and agility for a player his size. The 4th and 5th rated prospects, Jalen Green and Jonathan Kuminga, decided not to go to college and instead took their talents to the G League and were teammates on the G League Ignite, a team based out of California. Both look like they have big-time NBA scoring potential at the wing spots. All top 5 picks are under the age of 20 years old, and all appear to have a bright future in the NBA. After the top 5, the talent I believe drops off a bit, but there are still some intriguing players. I'm going to tip my hand a little bit because I'm going to officially pick a side in the tank-compete battle. I think that the Raptors should tank. If you're not fully on board with the tank, let me tell you a short story. In 1996, the San Antonio Spurs franchise player and Hall of Famer David Robinson injured his back and then broke his foot. As a result, he had to miss the entire season. Without Robinson, the Spurs stunk, and they finished with a record of 20-62. If you're a fan of the NBA, you'll know where this story is headed. The Spurs managed to win the NBA draft lottery and select Tim Duncan first overall. Duncan, as you are probably well aware, is one of the greatest players of all time, and when David Robinson returned the following year, the Spurs were again a contender. In Tim Duncan's second season, the Spurs won the NBA title. Now, why am I telling you this story? Well, I see a few similarities between the 1996-97 San Antonio Spurs and the Toronto Raptors. Both teams were dealt a bad hand with injuries. While the Raptors don't have a single player as impactful as David Robinson, they have a number of young veteran players that really should be leading the Raptors to a better record. Because of circumstances like playing in Tampa, missing key players for extended periods of time, and bad roster construction, this season looks like a write-off. I think the ideal long-term scenario for the Raptors is to move up in the draft lottery, i.e., lose a lot, grab a franchise-altering talent, and then in the offseason fix the roster issues that have hurt them this season. The next season, hopefully back playing in the Scotiabank Center, the Raptors could get back to their winning ways, having dipped into the lottery and added a blue-chip prospect they can integrate into their core. I know there are counter-arguments to this proposal, and I think that there are some good points to be made in the Compete Now camp, but I just wanted to let my viewers know what I believe to be the best outcome for the Raptors, considering the circumstances. Let me know in the comments what you think. For those of you who are interested in the current on-court production, there have been some very pleasant things happening on the court despite the losing. Gary Trent Jr. looks like he's a very nice piece, and at 22 appears to be just scraping the surface of what he's capable of. Trent has had two very impressive moments so far in a Raptors uniform. He made history by being one of the only players to surpass the plus 50 mark in terms of single game plus-minus, with a plus 54 against the Golden State Warriors, which is second only to Luc Richard Mbah a Moute, who had plus 57 in a game a few years back. He also hit an incredible last-second three-point shot that changed the score from 101-100 for the Wizards into 103-101 for the Raptors. He hasn't been 100% consistent, having up and down shooting nights, but when averaged out, he's producing at an impressive level. He's probably adding extra dollars onto his eventual payday this offseason, but you won't hear me complaining about it. The other little surprise has been the play of Malachi Flynn over the past few games. With Van Vliet and Lowry out of the lineup, Flynn has been called on to play significant minutes off of the bench. Flynn hasn't seen a ton of time in the NBA this season, and when he did play, he was not very impressive. Nurse's short leash combined with the NBA learning curve appeared to stifle the progress of the first-year guard. Flynn did have a very productive G League stint, earning a spot on the G League All-Rookie team. However, on the big club, he looked tentative and gun-shy. But Flynn appears to have broken through in his last 3 games, where he's averaging 14 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and almost 3 steals on great shooting percentages. The counting stats are nice, but I'm also impressed with his defense. As draft expert Sam and I outlined in the rookie episode of Raptors Report, Flynn is very good at sticking with his man, and his quick hands have been on full display as well, swiping and nabbing crossovers from opposing guards. It's a relief that Flynn appears to be turning the corner in the NBA, because in a season where not much else is going right, having a promising rookie is something that definitely eases the pain somewhat. And that about does it for this episode of Raptors Report. What are your thoughts on the Raptors' current situation? Are you on Team Tank or Team Compete? Are there any other issues with the team that you think I should cover? Let me know here in the comments and on Twitter at Raps Report. I always enjoy hearing from other Raptors fans. Please leave a like and subscribe if you enjoyed the content. It helps the channel out. And as always, thank you for tuning in to Raptors Report, your source for in-depth Raptors content.